We come now to questions for oral answer. Question number 1 in the name of Andrew Little. Andrew Little, question number 1.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker, ngā he mihi o te rā. My question is to the Prime Minister. Does he stand by his statement that, quotes, "I don't want to ban foreigners from buying residential property," end quotes?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, yes, I stand by my full statement, which was we do not support a ban on foreign buyers. We think that's neither justified nor likely to be terribly effective. For the most part, countries don't have bans, but where they've had them, we don't think they've worked very well.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Will he sign the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, a deal that this House and the public have not been allowed to see, if it makes it impossible to stop people from the US, China, Japan and elsewhere buying our houses?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I think the member is a little behind the 8 ball because the reason that a ban may not be applied to a Chinese buyer of a residential property in New Zealand is as a result of Labor writing the MFN provisions in the China FTA and the ratification of the Korean FTA. It's a shame that Labor didn't think of all this 8 years ago.
Supplementary.
Order. Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Will he sign the TPPA if it prevents his government or future governments imposing taxes that only apply to offshore housing speculators?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, the member will appreciate that TPP is currently under negotiation, and so those issues haven't been resolved. But I'm confident that future governments of New Zealand will have plenty of tools in the toolbox when it comes to applying taxes if they so wish to do so.
Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
How many homes have been sold into overseas ownership since he said he was concerned about Kiwis becoming tenants in their own land in 2010, or doesn't he know?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I don't know.
Supplementary. Order. Supplementary question, Tim McIndoe.
Thank you, sir. What reports has the Prime Minister received confirming that banning foreigners from buying residential property does not work?
Mr Speaker.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, last week I received a report from Australia, and I quote, "The double whammy of the lowest interest rates since the 1960s and an investor frenzy has seen Sydney's median house price smash through the magic 1 million mark for the first time." The report goes on to note that Sydney's median house price is now higher than in London and fast approaching New York. Investors now have a record 62% share of Sydney's housing market loans. Mr Speaker, this is a market that, theoretically at least, bans foreign buyers, something that clearly doesn't work.
Supplementary.
Ask Tony Abbott about that.
Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Why is he refusing to listen to the overwhelming public demand for a ban on overseas investors buying our houses and forcing prices out of reach of first home buyers here?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Well, Mr Speaker, we have a far more scientific way of doing things on this side of the House than looking at whether a name is Chinese and deciding they're the bad guy. Mr Speaker, as I said, the reason why we wouldn't be able to ban a Chinese person buying
Order. I'm sorry to interrupt the Prime Minister. I cannot hear the answer with that level of interjection. Prime Minister.
Well, Mr Speaker, the reason they're making that much noise is they know what I'm going to say. The reason you can't ban a Chinese person is because Labor wrote it into the law. Yes, you did. Oh, yes, you did.
Supplementary question.
Order. Supplementary question, Tim McIndoe.
Thank you, sir. Has the Prime Minister seen reports in support of the government's approach to international investment and trade?
Mr Speaker,
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Yes, I've seen 2 reports. The first one said, and I quote, "I'm a rabid free trader. I believe in free trade. I'm part of a party that's been pro-free trade and has initiated many free trade agreements, including China." The second report offered the opposite view. It said, "You may have heard my colleague describe himself as a passionate free trader. Well, I could not describe myself in that way." The first report was from Clayton Cosgrove. The second, a few minutes later, was from Claire Curran, underlying the deep divisions within the Labour Party. And that was the tone of their caucus meeting.
Order. Prime Minister will resume. Order! Prime Minister will resume his seat. Order! 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 Both sides need to tone down their level of interjection. Question number 3, David Bennett.
Mr. Speaker, my question is
Order.
to the Minister of Finance.